Hi guys, Scott here from TEPIS Paranormal and welcome back to another video. Okay, so today I thought we would do something a little bit different. Now I've done similar to this in the past, but we're going to do a tier list. But instead of a tier list of paranormal investigators or paranormal TV shows like I've previously done, today I'm going to do a tier list of paranormal equipment that I don't have but that I quite fancy. So I've put together a tier list ranking from S through to D. And I'm going to go through a number of different pieces of paranormal equipment, tell you a little bit about them, tell you how much they cost, and then rank them on the tier list. So we're going to jump straight in with the Envoy Ghost Box. Designed specifically for paranormal investigations, this device presents entities with a simple and flexible way to communicate with us. Envoy offers the ability to deliver words, phrases, numbers, emotions, and yes or no answers through a uniquely simple, transparent and documentable method. Just a simple touch, energy spike or temperature change allows for open-ended communication with no word data banks or complicated code for entities to navigate. By employing practices that we theorise ghosts may already be familiar with, this device puts those learned tools to work. Through basic touch or tapping, magnetic fluctuations and temperature swings, spirits can now articulate their connections with us. In turn, we learn from them what method suits best. The Envoy gets straight to work scanning through a set of diverse choices, and while that's happening, there are multiple sensors looking for environmental changes. As soon as a spike occurs, it makes a selection with an audio alert. It displays it on the screen and lets us know which sensor was triggered. Now the Envoy is quite interesting. It has the benefit of not including something that I'm normally a bit iffy with, which is databanks and word banks. Because I don't understand necessarily how a ghost knows how to navigate that, whereas the Envoy doesn't have that. It just uses basic simple yes or no kind of fluctuations and lets them physically select it by moving a thing. It's a lot more practical, it's a lot more physical, and I really like it. Now the Envoy Ghost Box comes in at £315.60 at the time of recording, and I think that's a reasonable price for something that seems to have a lot of functionality. I do quite want one, and for that reason, I'm going to put it in the A tier. Okay, next up, we have an EMF pump. Now, the EMF pump is basically a battery. It works by giving ghosts and spirits energy so that we can pick up much stronger signals when investigating their presence. Think of it as a power source for the paranormal. It effectively works by emitting energy to its surrounding area, which ghosts and other paranormal entities can use to channel into their own energy. It's great if we're picking up weak communication, and it can mean much more conclusive and cleaner evidence of the paranormal, whether it's audio or photographic. It works by emitting a strong electromagnetic field into the area or room we're working in, and that field acts by drawing ghosts and giving them stronger energies. The EMF pump intrigues me, because it essentially is just a big battery designed to be drained. Obviously, it wouldn't work with an EMF detector present because that would go off as it's actively dishing out EMF. But it is giving spirits energy. We've previously seen batteries get drained at locations, so this is a good way of charging the paranormal and actively giving them more energy to interact with us. The EMF pump is only $45.99, which I think is a reasonable price, and so for that reason I'm going to put it in a B tier, because while I think it is interesting, I also think it's quite simplistic. Next up, we have a device that the paranormal enthusiasts amongst us will recognise. This is the Ovilus 5. The Ovilus 5 is the latest innovation in ghost box technology, and is designed to help investigators detect and communicate with the spirit world. Featuring 8 unique modes including dictionary mode, draw mode, energy mode, phonetic mode, and proximity sensing, as well as a few others. All of these modes are designed to help you connect with entities in a variety of ways. The device works by scanning through environmental readings and correlates those with a list of words and phrases. Utilising a combination of precision sensors to detect changes in the environment, it allows ghosts to communicate with us precisely. As a result, the Ovilus 5 is able to convert these environmental readings into words, making it quick and easy for investigators to gather evidence. Ovilus has been teaching spirits what activity produces what words for almost 2 decades. This long-standing formula has never changed, and that codex continues in this new model. The readings to word system specifically chooses a word based on specific readings. As such, it has never used any kind of random generation. Now, the Ovilus is a device that's always interested me. I've never used one, so I can't be 100% sure on its legitimacy or how it works. But from what I've seen, it seems to basically be a word bank within the device that, depending on the exact reading or the exact fluctuation that occurs, picks a certain word or character or noise. As it said in the piece I read from the Ovilus description, they've been doing this for over 2 decades and haven't changed the code, so spirits that have previously used this device to communicate may have learned certain things over that time. But for me, the Ovilus has a few glaring issues. In that, when you go to a new location, spirits aren't going to understand how to use this device. Spirits aren't going to know the exact reading and the exact fluctuation they need to give to get a certain word. And so my understanding of the device is a little bit limited in that sense, and for that reason I'm not 100% sure on it. That being said, it is one of the most famous pieces of paranormal equipment in the paranormal circle, and therefore I am very interested in using it. The Ovilus 5 is currently selling for £473, which is quite a lot of money, but depending on the amount of evidence it gives you could be advantageous. Because of the notoriety of this device, it is in my S tier. It's something I really want to use and I would love to try in the future. Next up we have the ParaAce Polterscript. The ParaAce Polterscript is a phenomenal new spirit communication tool exclusively launched at Ghost Hunters Equipment by Ghost Augustine. It works on the same basic principles as the Ovilus. The Polterscript converts environmental energy changes into words, letters, numbers, and yes or no replies that come through as voice and text. It has a library mode where the energy field is manipulated and words come through from the internal 2,300 word library. The last 3 words that it says are kept on the screen so you can constantly refer back. There's also an alphabet mode where, when an energy field is manipulated, certain letters, numbers, and yes or no replies are received through the device, almost like a Ouija board in style. This device was obviously created as an alternative to the Ovilus, and for that reason I've put it slightly lower because it is something essentially trying to replicate that. It's going to be in my A tier, however it is significantly cheaper at only £320. Moving on again, we have the Hexcom. The Hexcom is created by Spirit Shack. The Hexcom is a word bank word generator specifically designed to communicate with spirits. It has a built-in EMF reader, which allows ghosts to choose from a database of over 2,000 words. It operates similarly to the Ovilus. It has a word bank generator with over 2,000 words. Words chosen are displayed on screen and read aloud. It displays the previous 9 entries. It has a 3.5-inch full-colour backlit screen, a wide viewing angle, built-in long-life rechargeable battery, and a built-in EMF meter for the word selection. The Hexcom seems again like another device attempting to replicate the output of the Ovilus, which I'm not against. I think the more people that try and do that, the better. However, it seems to have much less ingenuity with it. It is primarily just an EMF meter, whereas the Ovilus and even the ParaAce both have other sensors. The fact that it's much simpler in its detection is reflected in the price, as the Hexcom is only £189.99, significantly cheaper than the previous 2 entries that attempt to do similar things. For the reason of this simplicity and the fact that it is essentially a cheap copy, even though it is fundamentally its own device, it is still trying to replicate the Ovilus, therefore making it a cheaper, more accessible copy. For that reason, I'm putting it in my B tier. It is a device I would like to use, and I have looked into buying one in the past. The much more affordable price definitely intrigues me, but the fact that it only uses EMF does kind of put me off. And again, my understanding of how the ghosts allegedly choose from the 2,000 word database, I still can't quite wrap my head around. But you never know, I may in the future pick one of these up. If you think I should, let me know in the comments down below. But for now, it's going in my B tier. Next up we have the Dead Bell. Although the Dead Bell appears like a classic reception bell, it holds a secret. It rings not just by a button press, but by the presence of paranormal energy. Powered with an advanced EMF sensor, it illuminates to fluctuations in the energy around it. Dead Bell features an authentic vintage-style reception or hotel bell, perched regally upon a throne of ornate carved wood. Each one is handcrafted from real walnut, ensuring that it exudes a unique personality with durable hard wood. With this bell as your beacon, you're not just hunting ghosts, you're inviting them to ring the bell for a chillingly captivating communication. Ghosts and entities can make their presence known by interacting with the energy field, triggering the bell physically by pressing the button. As this also contains an EMF sensor, any energy that goes near this will also trigger the bell, and the intensity of the EMF spike affects how loudly the bell rings. The dead bell is an intriguing concept, and one that I am quite interested in. After seeing this device, I did purchase a old-style reception bell, which you may have seen in some of the investigations on Dudey Rhino's channel. Although that is just a standard bell, it still gives the intention of spirits can come and ring it with physical touch. What we're essentially paying for here, and what I don't particularly like, is we're paying for an EMF sensor and this bell to be put into one device. Fundamentally, I have no issue with that. It just seems like it's a lot of money. This device costs £157, and it just feels to me like a lot of money that isn't necessarily needed when you can just have an EMF sensor and a bell separately for about £30 to £40 in total. Yes, one doesn't set the other off, but they kind of are still both available as separate devices. And although it looks cool, I just personally don't think the dead bell would give me any particular advantage or benefit. For that reason, I'm going to put the dead bell in at C tier in my tier list. Again, it's an interesting concept, and I like the ingenuity and the inventiveness of it. I just don't think it's for me personally. Let me know what you think on the dead bell in the comments down below. Next up we have the EMF tripwire. The EMF tripwire is a device that I believe I first saw in one of Nick Groff's YouTube investigations. However, I may have seen it previously. The versatile mobile tripwire debuted in 2021. The Trip 12 is a 12 foot in length. The Trip 12 is 12 foot in length with 10 microprocessor controlled EMF sensors spaced 14 inches apart. The Trip 36 is a 36 foot long version with 12 EMF sensors spaced 3 foot apart. There are 6 vibrant colours in each LED bulb, and they're emitted when they sense EMF. Much like a standard EMF meter, each bulb lights up in that same array of colours. However, unlike a standard EMF meter, these are physically larger LED bulbs, and they generally can be seen from a much wider array of area. Of course, the advantage of it being a tripwire is you can lay it out in a long line and physically see movement move from one end to the other. You simply position the cable and turn the power on at the battery supply. The lights briefly flash and then settle down to the base pink. Ideal locations for the Trip 12 would be stairways, doorways and surrounding trigger objects, whereas the Trip 36 is great for long hallways, aisleways and stages where there's extra EMF coverage needed. The Trip 12 and Trip 36 are quick and easy devices to set up and relocate, as opposed to handling 10 to 12 individual K2 or EMF meters. Conceptually, I really like the EMF tripwire. I really like the way it looks, and I think that it would be really cool to have it around a door frame, for example, to physically see as something moved through a doorway. I also think there's advantages to having it, across a set of stairs so you could see something physically walk up the stairs, or even down a corridor so you could see something walk down a corridor and follow the lights in intensity as they moved along. Now, my only issue with the EMF tripwire is that the only ones I've managed to find online at the moment are $229 each. Now, realistically, for a good quality EMF meter, you're probably looking around the £20 mark. So it's not actually that expensive, but it just feels like a lot of money for essentially a few different EMF meters. Although obviously they are all integrated into one and are pretty good for generally being used for long corridors and things like that. Conceptually, I really like the EMF tripwire, and for that reason I'm going to put it into the S tier of my tier list. It's something that I would really like. Let me know your thoughts on the EMF tripwire in the comments down below, and if you think I should get one. Next up we have the ParaAce PMB. The ParaAce PMB, or Paranormal Music Box, is a unique piece of ghost hunting equipment that will alert you visually and audibly if there's a paranormal entity within your vicinity. The ParaAce PMB works as a trigger object. This means that whenever there's a paranormal entity within an area in which it's placed, the device will be triggered and will alert you both visually and audibly. That's what it said on the website. I actually don't think that's technically the definition of a trigger object, per se. I mean, it's kind of there, but I feel like a trigger object primarily is also meant to entice the spirits in because it looks like something they would have used in the past and would want to interact with. It's triggered by movement, whether that movement is coming from an entity that can be seen with the human eye, or moves unseen, such as a spirit. The ParaAce plays a creepy sounding tune when it's triggered, adding to the atmosphere of any investigation. This paranormal music box has a range of 5 meters and will trigger with both light and sound when something moves within that range, including both physical entities such as humans and unseen entities such as spirits. Now, those of you that have seen our investigations over on Dudey Rhino's channel will know that we have a music box.
So this is Paranormal music box, okay? So I made it myself. I'll show you what it is and how it works pretty much. Right, so simple. Got a little LED in here. The sends off a little sensor to set off the music, right? This is just a little motion sensor at the front that should capture any like infrared movements or any movements in front. So, theory behind it, if anything walks in front, triggers a little LED, triggers music, sets it off, spooky ghosts.
And it seems to work. It works well, it detects movement. I mean, you know, it plays a tune when movement's detected. Because of that, and because that music box was self-created by Bailey, I struggle to see the exact need for this device. Yes, it's much easier because obviously you don't have to create it yourself if you're not technical or if you don't understand the inner workings of a device. But the PowerAce PMB is £500, which to me feels like a lot of money and is not anywhere close to what it cost for us to create our device. Purely because I can't justify the price, I'm going to put it into C tier. The device does look very cool, but I just for that cost would expect a lot more than essentially a motion sensor and a speaker. Next up we have the PowerAce PMB Poltertune. The Poltertune is a smaller, more lightweight and portable version of that device. Coming in at a more affordable price of only £279, it's a popular and widely used piece of equipment. Whereas the previous device covered a range of 5 meters, this device covers a range of only 1 to 2 meters, giving it a much reduced range but at a much more affordable cost. Personally, again, I still struggle to see the exact costing of this and how it's cost so much for them to produce, because again, I don't think ours was anywhere close to this price. Therefore, I'm also going to put this device in the C tier, purely because I can't justify the cost. Next up we have what I think is probably one of my favourite devices on this list, and that is the Flux 2 device. This ghost hunting device provides clear responses that you can see and hear during an investigation. Simply set it down, ask questions, and await a response. You can choose to ask a question with a yes or no answer, or any other closed-ended question of your choice. Answers to your questions are indicated with a tone and either a red or a green light. The Flux 2 paranormal communication device utilises multiple environmental sensors to determine responses based on location of motion, distance, and even temperature changes. The Flux device includes 2 highly sensitive infrared laser motion and distance sensors. To measure temperature, there's an ambient thermometer probe which reads the air temperature around the device, and these sensors provide quick and precise measurements of movement and distance. Conceptually, I really like this device. It's simple, it has 2 lights, and depending on what the reading does, it will give you a response on that side. In case of temperature, if it goes up, it will go into one side. If the temperature goes down, it will go into the other side. In terms of distance, if something moves on the left side of the device, that side lights up. On the right side, that side lights up. You can test this by just waving your hands either side and it correlates. Therefore, I think this is really good as a simple yes or no device to ask spirits questions. Now, the Flux 2 device does come in at £157, which again is quite a lot of money, but I think that's quite worth it and I actually really like the device. I would quite like to get one. Let me know your thoughts down below. Because I really like this device, I am going to put it in my S tier. Next up, we have the Geoport and Geobox. This is a device that I've primarily seen in Nick Groff's Deathwalker shows, as well as his previous Paranormal Lockdown shows. The 2 devices rely on the same basic principle as a spirit box, which is essentially a hacked or modified radio that rapidly scans through AM or FM radio frequencies. As it does this, the sound of white noise and snippets of radio broadcasts can be heard, and it's believed that spirits can influence or change these forms somehow to form words, sentences, and sounds. In the case of the Geo devices, this hacked radio is connected to the antique radio case. There's also an EMF detector that's linked to the device, and the radio and EMF signals are then fed into a reverb device which allows modulation and gives the Geo devices a unique and echoey sound. In the original Geobox, which was fully analog, the reverb device works on the principle of vibrational waves passing along a spring. Now I'm going to come right out and say I don't like this device. I don't like the reverb. I don't like the fact that it's essentially just a big speaker to plug a spirit box into. And for me, it just doesn't really do anything that exciting. Obviously, the vibrational reverb and fluctuation based on EMF is quite interesting because it gives a secondary kind of way to alter the waves of the radio as opposed to just altering the spirit box. But there's something about this device I don't like. Every time I've seen it used, I've not enjoyed how it sounds. I can't really make out any words on it because the reverb's too heavy. And in my opinion, it's just not that good, or at least not for me. For that reason, I'm putting it in the D tier of my tier list. The Geoport and Geobox device comes in at around $2,000 including tax, because each device is completely handmade from scratch. As far as I understand as well, you have to provide your own spirit box for the device, as it doesn't come with one inbuilt or provided. Next up we have the Footstep Tracker Geophone. This incredibly sensitive vibration detection device is a geophone that listens to vibrations and sends the readout to a lighted display. You place it anywhere and watch for changes on the light bar to see if there's someone or something moving. With greater motion, more lights illuminate on the LED bar for a quick and easy indication of strength. Additionally, this unit also marks and logs the number of events detected and how strong they are. Obviously, it's just a really sensitive geophone. It picks up vibration and it tells you how intense the vibration is. If you were to put it on the floor of a building and walk around, it would pick up the footsteps. If you were to put it on the floor of a building and leave the building, it would also still detect, and if any footsteps were detected or any kind of movement that actually vibrated the ground was detected, it would pick that up. I like this device because it's very scientific and it very much is a thing that exists in the world already. Geophones are very much used for, earthquake detection and things like that. They're also used to measure the, effects of groundworks and construction. So they are an actual confirmed, science that exists. Now, the Footstep Tracker Geophone listed here on this website is £157, which is a lot of money, but for something that is very much a scientific piece of equipment that has a completely defined understanding and working, I think it's fairly solid. That is generally the price. I've not managed to find any geophones for significantly cheaper prices. They are all in around the, mid 100 range. Because I like it and because it's a very scientific device, I am going to put it in the A tier of my tier list. Onto our final piece of equipment, I have the Boo Buddy Interactive. Referred to by some as Boo Bear, this sophisticated device is more than just a stuffed animal with a cute name and an EMF meter inside. They do sell a cheaper version that is literally just an EMF meter in a bear, which we have, and have used in previous investigations.
This right here is a ghost hunting teddy bear. As you can imagine, when I opened it up, I was like, okay, she's got me a pink teddy bear. Basically, if anything touches this, it makes a noise and it flashes red, right?
This talking interactive bear asks questions and reacts to changes in the environment accordingly. Soon, you'll be deputising this cutie as an official investigator bear on your ghost hunting team. It detects EMF and responds with lights in the arms when spikes arise, detects movement, vibration and temperature, and responds with voice. This talking interactive bear asks questions and reacts to environmental changes. It asks EVP questions in order to trigger a response, and if there's an effect in the surrounding area, Boo Buddy will respond appropriately, with flashing lights or an adorable voice, indicating we may not be alone. Boo Bear will randomly ask questions for EVP sessions, such as, do you want to be my friend? So you would leave the bear and a recorder alone and just let it talk. When the bear is moved or touched, it says, hee hee, that tickles. And when the temperature decreases, it will say, it's cold in here. I think it's an interesting device that can be left fully unattended and will still kind of do some investigation on its own, without any kind of need for physical interaction. The Boo Buddy Interactive is £268, which for a bear that has all of these different things inside it is quite expensive, but also feels like it would be quite effective. As I mentioned, we have the cheaper version, the non-interactive version, that is primarily just an EMF meter and a few sensors inside a bear. I still like that device, obviously, and it's very useful. I actually have a cheaper, even cheaper knockoff version over on my shelf over there, which I found off at a seller on Etsy, which again is primarily an EMF meter built into a bear. But I think the Boo Bear Interactive does have that. But I think the Boo Buddy Interactive does have that extra element that would be really helpful. For that reason, I am putting it in my S tier, because I think it would be a really valuable paranormal tool, and something you could leave running in a room with a camera or a recorder and just leave to do its thing. So that brings us to the end of my tier list. One more time, I'm just going to run through the tier list. In the D tier, we have the Geoport. In the C tier, we have the Dead Bell, the Paranormal Music Box, and the Paranormal Music Box Poltertune. In B, we've got the EMF Pump and the Hexcom. In A, we have the Envoy, the Polterscript, and the Geophone. And in the S tier, we have the Ovilus 5, the EMF Tripwire, and the Flux 2, as well as the Boo Buddy Interactive. Let me know your thoughts on this tier list in the comments down below. Let me know where you'd have ranked things, and if there's any devices that I've missed that you think we should get for future investigations, and where you'd put them in the tier list. And let me know if you desperately want to see any of these devices in future investigations, and I'll potentially see what I can do with acquiring something either similar or the exact device. But that brings us to the end of this tier list. I've been Scott from TEPIS Paranormal, and I'll see you in the next video.